Hey guys, it's Illuminostic, and we have been attempting to get through chapter 12 of the Kybalion, Causation today. I usually do these live, but there have been storms in the Amazon where we are today, and so the internet's been going in and out, so I decided to just record it without any editing, and so it'll be sort of live, and then I'll join everyone in the chat in case anyone has any questions. So we'll be pseudo live. Okay, so chapter 12, causation. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law, the Kybalion. The great six hermetic principle, the principle of cause and effect, embodies the truth that law pervades the universe, that nothing happens by chance, that chance is merely a term indicating cause existing but not recognized or perceived, that phenomena is continuous without break or exception. I wonder about this because I think that the universe is equal parts chaos and order, but the argument can definitely be made that even chaos has a cause, and that what we perceive to be chaos from a different point of view due to relativity could actually have order. So, and I think that's probably the position I would settle on, that even the chaos in the universe from some perspective is actually order of a different order. Um, The principle of cause and effect underlies all scientific thought, ancient and modern, and was enunciated by the Hermetic teachers in the earliest days. While many and varied disputes between the many schools of thought have since arisen, these disputes have been principally upon the details of the operations of the principle, and still more often upon the meaning of certain words. The underlying principle of cause and effects has been accepted as correct by practically all the thinkers of the world worthy of the name. Um, to think otherwise would be to take the phenomena of the universe from the domain of law and order and to relegate it to the control of the imaginary, something which men have called chance. A little consideration will show anyone that there is in reality no such thing as pure chance. Webster defines the word chance as follows: a supposed agent or mode of activity other than a force, law, or purpose. The operation or activity of such agent, the supposed effect of such agent, a happening, a fortuity, causality, etc. But a little consideration will show you that there can be no such agent as chance in the sense of something outside of law, something outside of cause and effect. How could there be something acting in the phenomenal universe independent of the laws, order, and continuity of the latter? Such a something would be entirely independent of the orderly trend of the universe, and therefore superior to it. We can imagine nothing outside the all being outside of the law, and that only because the all is the law in itself. There is no room in the universe for something outside of and independent of law. The existence of such a something would render all natural laws ineffective and would plunge the universe into chaotic disorder and lawlessness. I don't know that I agree with that. We'll see if maybe he can make a case for it, but I don't understand what grounds he's saying, that if there was random chance, it would plunge the universe into total chaos. There has to be some balance of chance and not chance. Otherwise, I think there would be no room for movement. There would be no flexibility. There would be no space in order to facilitate free will and activity and progress and evolution. In a universe that was absolute order, without any chance, then there would be no movement at all. So give him a chance to make his case, but I'm not convinced of this so far. A careful examination will show that what we call chance is merely an expression relating to obscure causes, causes that we cannot perceive, causes that we cannot understand. The word chance is derived from a word meaning to fall, as the falling of dice. The idea being that the fall of the dice and many other happenings are merely a happening. unrelated to any cause, and this is the sense in which the term is generally employed. But when the matter is closely examined, it is seen that there is no chance whatsoever about the fall of the dice. Each time a die falls and displays a certain number, it obeys a law as infallible as that which governs the revolution of the planets around the sun. Behind the fall of the die are causes, or chains of causes, running back further than the mind can follow. The position of the die in the box, the amount of muscular energy expended in the throw, the condition of the table, etc., etc., are all causes, the effect of which may be seen. But behind these seen causes there are chains of unseen preceding causes, all of which had a bearing upon the number of the die which fell uppermost. Having a number of causes and influences exerting themselves does not negate chance, though. So again, I'm still not sold on this. If a die be cast a great number of times, it will be found that the numbers shown will be about equal. That is, there will be an equal number of 1 spot, 2 spot, etc. coming uppermost. Toss a penny in the air, and it may come down either heads or tails, but make a sufficient number of tosses, and the heads and tails will about even up. This is the operation of the law of average, and both the average and the single toss come under the law of cause and effect. And if we were able to examine into the preceding causes, it would be clearly seen that it was simply impossible for the die to fall other than it did, under the same circumstances and at the same time. Given the same causes, the same results will follow. There is always a cause and a because to every event. Nothing ever happens without a cause or a chain of causes. I do understand the point that he's making, that things, once they've happened, could not have happened any other way. But that still doesn't mean that all of the causes that influenced them were not the result of random chance. I still feel like we're deeply in the territory of lunatic logic, and I don't know that we're going to escape it. We shall see. Some confusion has arisen in the minds of persons considering this principle, from the fact that they were unable to explain how one thing could cause another thing, that is, be the creator of the second thing. As a matter of fact, no thing ever causes or creates another thing. Cause and effect deals merely with events. An event is that which comes, arrives, or happens as a result of consequent of some preceding event. No event creates another event, but is merely a preceding link in the great orderly chain of events flowing from the creative energy of the all. There is a continuity between all events precedent, consequent, and subsequent. There is a relation existing between everything that has gone before and everything that follows. A stone is dislodged from a mountainside and crashes through a roof of a cottage in the valley below. At first sight, we regard this as a chance effect, but when we examine the matter, we find a great chain of causes behind it. In the first place, there was the rain which softened the earth supporting the stone and which allowed it to fall. Then, back of that was the influence of the sun, other rains, etc., which gradually disintegrated the piece of rock from a larger piece, and then there were the causes which led to the formation of the mountain and its upheaval by convulsions of nature, and so on ad infinitum. Then we might follow up the causes behind the rain, etc. Then we might consider the existence of the roof. In short, we would soon find ourselves involved in a mesh of cause and effect from which we would soon strive to extricate ourselves. Once again, we have not established even a shred of reasoning for any of this not being pure chance. This is only saying that there are causes that link together in a great chain that connects together all of time and space. But there has been no negation of chance, not one shred of rational or logical reasoning. But we will continue, because this book, so far, except for this chapter, this book is really solid metaphysics and mysticism. But so far, causation here, I'm not quite following his logic. Just as a man has 2 parents and 4 grandparents and 8 grandparents and 16 great-great-grandparents and so on, until when, say, 40 generations are calculated and the numbers of ancestors run into many millions, so it is with the number of causes behind even the most trifling event or phenomena, such as the passage of a tiny speck of soot before your eye. It is not an easy matter to trace the bit of soot back to the early period of the world's history, when it formed a part of a massive tree trunk, which was afterward converted into coal, and so on, until the speck of soot now passes before your vision on its way to other adventures. And a mighty chain of events, causes, and effects brought it to the present condition, and the latter is but one of the chain of events which will go to produce other events hundreds of years from now. One of the series of events rising from the tiny bit of soot was the writing of these lines, which caused the typesetter to perform certain work, the proofreader to do likewise, and which will arouse certain thoughts in your mind and that of others, which in turn will affect others, and so on and on and on, beyond the ability of man to think further, and all from the passage of a tiny bit of soot, all of which shows the relativity and association of things, and the further fact that there is no great, there is no small, in the mind that causeth all. But still not one shred of reasoning for it not being chance. Having a great chain of causality from a tiny speck of soot does, speak to the interconnectedness of all things. And I will at this point interject the reason that I would read this chapter at all if I don't necessarily agree with what he's presenting. It's not that I don't agree with what he's presenting, it's that I don't feel like he's making a good case for it. In my own life, the way that I've experienced things is that things are sort of set up over time, and everything that's presented in my life is presented at a time that it would not have made any sense at any other time, if that makes sense. And so I feel like subjectively I've experienced this this chain of causality that implies some kind of purpose or some indication that there's more to it than random chance. Also, I think the complexity of biological evolution, even in a single human being, is too much for random chance. I think that the Darwinian blind mutation theory really has to make a wide pass on the fact of this complexity and how many adaptations would have had to occur simultaneously in order for life to have continued. So, I think there are a great many things that make a good case for there being more to the universe than random chance. But so far, nothing that is here in the Kybalion is making that case very well. Let me try to adjust for the sun. Yeah, okay, that's a little better. Okay, so, man, sun really, sun really going crazy back there. Okay, how about this? There we go. That's better. All right, so, let's see if he redeems himself. Stop to think a moment. If a certain man had not met a certain maid away back in the dim period of the Stone Age, you are now reading these lines would not be here. You who are reading these lines would not be here. And if perhaps the same couple had failed to meet, we who now write these lines would not now be here. And the very act of writing on our part and the act of reading on yours will affect not only the respective lives of yourself and ourselves, but will also have a direct or indirect effect on many other people now living and who will live in the ages to come. Every thought we think, every act we perform has its direct and indirect results, which fit into the great chain of cause and effect. We do not wish to enter into consideration of free will or determinism in this work for various reasons. Among their many reasons is the principal one that neither side of the controversy is entirely right. Other sides are partially correct. According to the Hermetic teachings, the principle of polarity shows that both are but half-truths, the opposing poles of truth. And this is where I do agree, that there has to be order and chaos in order to give us the type of existence that we enjoy. So it's good to hear him acknowledging that, but I'm still not understanding how it is that any of the stuff that's been presented has anything to do with negating chance. Um, particularly and absolutely. Maybe that's what this acknowledgement that these things are all half-truths is about. The teachings are that a man may be both free and yet bound by necessity, depending upon the meaning of the terms and the height of truth from which the matter is examined. The ancient writers express the matter thus: the further the creation is from the center, the more it is bound. The nearer the center it reaches, the nearer free is it. The majority of people are more or less the slaves of heredity, environment, etc., and manifest very little freedom. They are swayed by the opinions, customs, and thoughts of the outside world, and also by their emotions, feelings, moods, etc. They manifest no mastery worthy of the name. They indignantly repudiate this assertion, saying, "Why, I am certainly free to act and do as I please. I do just what I want to do," and they fail to explain whence arise the want to and as I please. What makes them want to do one thing in preference to another? What makes them please to do this and not to do that? Is there no because in their pleasing and wanting? The master can change these pleases and wants into others at the opposite end of the mental pole. He is able to will instead of to will because some feeling, mood, emotion, or environmental suggestion arouses a tendency or desire with him to do so. The majority of people are carried along like the falling stone, obedient to environment, outside influences and internal moods, desires, etc., not to speak of the desires and wills of others stronger than themselves, heredity, environment, and suggestion, carrying them along without resistance on their part, or the exercise of the will. Moved like the pawns on the checkerboard of life, they play their parts and are laid aside after the game is over. But the masters, knowing the rules of the game, rise above the plane of material life and, placing themselves in touch with the higher powers of their nature, dominate their own moods, characters, qualities, and polarity, as well as the environment surrounding them, and thus become movers in the game instead of pawns, causes instead of effects. The masters do not escape the causation of the higher planes, but fall in with the higher laws, and thus master circumstances on the lower plane. They thus form a conscious part of the law, instead of being mere blind instruments. While they serve on the higher planes, they rule on the material plane. Now, that absolutely does redeem this chapter, but it still has nothing to do with random chance not existing. So, that was cool, but I still see nothing about random chance not existing here. But on higher and on lower, the law is always in operation. There is no such thing as chance. The blind goddess has been abolished by reason. We are able to see now, with eyes made clear by knowledge, that everything is governed by universal law, that the infinite number of laws are but manifestations of the one great law, the law which is the all. It is true indeed that not a sparrow drops unnoticed by the mind of the all, that even the hairs on our head are numbered, as the scriptures have said. There is nothing outside the law, nothing that happens contrary to it, and yet do not make the mistake of supposing that man is but a blind automaton, far from that. The Hermetic teachings are that man may use law to overcome laws, and that the higher will always prevail against the lower, until at last he has reached the stage in which he seeks refuge in the law itself and laughs the phenomenal laws to scorn. Are you able to grasp the inner meaning of this? No, not really. And I still kind of disagree fundamentally. I mean, I do feel that there is a lot in the universe that isn't just random chance. But I don't think he made a shred of a case for that in this chapter. Overall, I would have to declare this chapter the only fail in the book. The next one, chapter 13, gender, is actually really interesting and really good. But I don't think that he established that there's no such thing as random chance, and I don't know that I'm convinced. In fact, I think that, even if you are aligned with your higher purpose and you have a destiny and there are higher selves and archangels, holy guardian angels, whatever, all of this stuff, there is still the possibility that chaos will strike you down. And to me, that's a manifestation of random chance. So I think that it's much more fair to say that random chance isn't the only force operating in the universe, but to say that nothing is chance, I think, is a bit ridiculous. In fact, it's not Hermetic. If these are Hermetic teachings and they're all half truths, that implies that it's half chance and half not chance. So do me a favor, hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon. There are options to support in the description below. Check out my video SOS Amazonas if you're interested in coming to study. Thank you for the caterpillar, Nagwal. Careful though, they can sting, little buddy. If you're interested in coming to learn Hermetic magic directly from me and to experience plant medicine in the Amazon rainforest, there are options to do that coming up in May. And we will be there for about a year in Miss Hawaii. So thank you for spending this time with me. And the next chapter is gender, which is a hot button topic for the last few years. And I think that if you're no matter how you feel about it, there is genuine insight in this next chapter. So even if chance happened to fail a little bit, I just, we have to completion. We're doing the whole book. So, I'm not skipping anything. So thank you so much for spending this time with me, and we'll see you again soon.